to the Countdown. I'm the Countdown host, MJ Book, back for another episode here in the world of the Countdown. Hope everybody's doing good. This has been a busy weekend for yours truly. Busy wrestling weekend. Of course, watching and covering SummerSlam, WWE SummerSlam. If you're a wrestling fan, you want to know how me and the guys reviewed. Please listen to Third Generation Wrestling. Of course, me, the real Big E, Eric, the Ambassador Rob, and we were joined by Doc, the Doctor of Wordonomics, was in the house viewing SummerSlam. But also we talked about the day before. We talked about, of course, the big news, CM Punk back in the world of professional wrestling, AEW. And of course, I'm going to be at AEW All Out with the real Big E and Rob. We're going to be watching first live wrestling show we've all been to together. And plus live crowds coming back and everything. That's going to be a great, great, great day. And just the other night, just on Sunday, watched NXT TakeOver 36. And as I'm recording this right now, literally just minutes ago, me and the real Big E and Ambassador Rob reviewed that pay-per-view. If you want to know what we think about the matches, there wasn't that many. There was only 5. Again, Third Generation Wrestling is your place. But this is the Countdown. And you know what I'm going to do with the Countdown. It is time to count some stuff down, and it is time to finish this sucker out. We are going to finish up favorite movies from the 80s. There's only 1 year left. And it is the year that started the whole decade, of course, 1980. And then I'm done. And then I'm done with the 80s. This has been a huge project, but I do appreciate the idea coming in. Gave me 10 episodes. So I will end up doing the same thing with the 90s. I've already started working on it, but I don't want to jump back into that. I want to take a little break from these decades, even though planning on recording another episode, possibly I might be getting 2 recorded very soon. Hopefully we'll see how things go for that. But as far as this, like I said, we're going to finish this up. 1980 was a rough year. It was hard to do this one, but I'll explain while I'm counting it down. But this was a rough one. So this is a 10-spot countdown. So without further ado, and here we go. Let's get started with the countdown. All right. Number 10. And the reason this is rough, because now I'm going to dip into this. I didn't have 10 movies that I could really come up with. So a couple of them kind of had to get tossed in. The biggest toss is number 10. And some people are going to may get mad at me for saying that this is a toss in, but it's a movie that I'm able to watch. It's a movie that has parts that I do like. I just never see myself actually owning this movie. I can watch it, not a problem. It's just not overall high on my list, but it was high enough that it could make it on this list, but it couldn't get any more than 10. And 10 was hard for the 80s, but I have to live with my choice here. Number 10 is directed by Stanley Kubrick, based off of the novel by Stephen King, starring Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Danny Lloyd, The Shining. Now, some folks may already think that's blasphemy that I'm saying this about The Shining, but I'm not the greatest fan of that movie. Like I said, I can totally watch it. It's just not something of the Stephen King movies. There's quite a few I will watch before I watch The Shining. But for those who have never seen The Shining, which probably there's not that many people really, but for the few that didn't, of course, the movie's about a family that goes up to this isolated hotel for the winter and kind of to watch over the place. And Jack Nicholson's character is a writer, and some strange things are happening at this isolated hotel. And it's a odd movie. Again, I'm not going to be able to say a whole lot about this movie because it's just not something I'm a overall huge fan of. It's just something I'm able to watch. And unfortunately, with 1980, there just wasn't a lot of movies. There just wasn't. So, I mean, I'm even going to name right now some honorable mentions, and there wasn't that many even honorable mentions. Believe it or not, I only had two: Stir Crazy and Hero at Large. And the 1980 just was not, of all the years that I've done with with the 80s, this was probably the worst year. And it sucks, but this was probably the worst year. And The Shining, there's just not a lot I'm going to be able to say, just simply because overall, it's an okay movie. I can watch it, but it was just good enough to make it into this countdown. But there's a lot of other Stephen King movies I will watch before this. Not a rip on it. It is a good movie, but just not something I'm going to, go out of my way to watch. If there's nothing else on and that's on, I'll watch it, but that's about all I can say about it. So probably the roughest entry I've had to do in a countdown, because it sounds like I don't even like the movie. I really do. It's just not that high on my list like it is maybe on others. Number 10, The Shining. Number 9, the difficultness of this list continues. I have tried to make it just theatrical movies, and I did see this in a theater. But the movie originally actually is a TV movie, but it played in a theater. So that's why I'm kind of counting this, because I did watch it in a theater. The first time I watched it was in a theater, and I actually do own this movie on DVD. This is directed by Jules Bass and Arthur Rankin Jr. Now, for some of you older listeners, you may recognize those names from some old style cartoons, so you might already have an idea what this is. It's based off the novels The Hobbit and Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. It was adapted for the screen by Romeo Muller, stars Orson Bean, John Huston, Theodore Bickle. It is The Return of the King. Okay. I'm a Lord of the Rings nut. I love Lord of the Rings, and I've said it many times. It is the greatest movie trilogy of all time. Each movie got better, but I got into these movies from a similar Bass and Rankin animated movie, The Hobbit, and that's what started all of it. Was watching that movie, and I ended up reading the book and enjoying it. There was a live action movie called The Lord of the Rings, which covers Fellowship of the Ring and the Two Towers. Not as good as The Hobbit. And then there comes this movie made by the same people who did The Hobbit. If you're a fan of things being accurate to the book, some folks may not like this, because this cartoon focuses a lot more on the two hobbits' struggle to destroy the ring and to get to Mount Doom. So this is dealing a lot with just Frodo and Sam, this animated movie. I mean, you see some of the other characters, you see Aragorn, you see them, but they're not really thought of too much in this movie. It's mainly just dealing with Frodo and Sam, which I would have liked it had they dealt with the other characters a little better. They didn't. They just dealt with Frodo and Sam, but I'm still able to enjoy this. Of the two Bass and Rankin Jr. movies, The Hobbit and Return of the King, which one's better? The Hobbit. The Hobbit's better. And I own The Hobbit as well. I own that Lord of the Rings animated movie I just mentioned, and I own this. It's not the worst thing to watch. Of those three animated movies I just mentioned, the Lord of the Rings one is the worst. This one, The Return of the King, is in the middle, and The Hobbit is the best one. But it's an enjoyable romp. It's an enjoyable little cartoon. It's part of my little childhood was watching these, because it's these movies that got me into Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, all this that caused me to read the books. Had it not been for had these movies not existed, I might not have ever watched Lord of the Rings. So for me, this was a big thing. I remember when I bought these DVDs, I bought them at an old video store called Family Video. I was the only one renting them. And so I asked, hey, are you selling them? And they looked it up and they said, yeah, nobody's renting these. You can buy them. So I bought them in a video store. I enjoy them. It's been a part of the greatest movie marathon I ever did, which was watching these animated movies. Then I went and watched the Hobbit. No. Then I went and watched Lord of the Rings. No, I did. I went and watched the Hobbit trilogy, and then I went and watched the Lord of the Rings special edition versions. It took me 24 hours to watch all these movies because essentially I watched 9 movies in a day. So it was a long marathon, but it was the greatest movie marathon I've ever done. I enjoyed myself. But number 9, Return of the King. As you can already see, this has been tough. This countdown has been really tough. These first 2, you could almost say I had to make excuses to put them in. And I hope it doesn't seem like that, because both of the movies I do enjoy. So, and one of them I own. So I hope it doesn't seem like I'm just making time trying to put these movies in. I truly do enjoy them. So let's get to number 8. Number 8 is loosely based off of a true story of a real person. It's directed by Buzz Kulik. Probably said that name wrong. Written by Ted Layton and Peter Hyams. It's based off a book by Christopher Keane, starring Steve McQueen, Eli Wallach, Catherine Harold. It is The Hunter. Now, some folks may be a little shocked that this movie would be on here. This is a movie this is one of those movies my mom actually got me into. She watched it. I watched it once and I was like, this actually isn't that bad. Now, the movie is about a bounty hunter named Ralph Papa Thorson, and he's just a bounty hunter who goes on different jobs all across the country, California. And he's receiving these death threats from a criminal that he helped put away. And that's kind of the side story that's going on in between, or the main story that's going on. And in between, he's doing these he's doing these jobs. Definitely got some action in it. This was Steve McQueen's last film before he passed away. Am I a huge Steve McQueen fan? Other than The Hunter, there's only a couple of others, about 3 other Steve McQueen movies I watched. I watched the original Blob. I love The Towering Inferno and the Thomas Crown Affair. I watched the original and I watched the remake with Pierce Brosnan. So I'm not one of these people that can really speak on the career of Steve McQueen, because there was only a few movies with him that I really was able to like. And the main ones are The Hunter and The Towering Inferno. Those are the main ones that I like. But he played this weary, you could tell when you're watching the movie. The first time I watched it, I didn't even know that Steve McQueen had passed away or this was his last movie. But as I was watching it, I looked at it and I'm like, is he okay? Because you could tell something's not right. It was kind of like the same way you looked at the Street Fighter movie and you saw Raul Julia. You knew something was wrong. So it's kind of sad to think, because I know a lot of Steve McQueen fans who really hate this movie, that it goes against the stereotypical Steve McQueen movie. I've heard that a few times. But I thoroughly enjoyed this. There's a scene where he's on top of a train in Chicago. There's a car chase that I absolutely love. There's this funny scene with this behemoth giant that he's trying to capture. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It is an interesting movie. The real life character, real life person, Ralph Papa Thorson, was a bounty hunter who tragically passed away, supposedly, possibly. Don't know if it's true or not, but supposedly it might have been an actual car bomb somebody had possibly done and killed him. Don't know if that was ever, I don't know the particulars on it. I just remember looking that up several years ago. But The Hunter is a movie. It's one of those movies I do want to own, but I actually want this on Blu-ray. And I've only been able to find it on DVD, and it's like $35 on DVD. And I was like, and I looked at the package of it and I'm like, this looks really cheap. So I didn't buy it. So I'm hoping this will come out on Blu-ray someday, because if it does, I'm definitely going to own it. I love this movie. It's, like I said, it's definitely interesting. By the way, also, he has a girlfriend in this, another one of the little stories going on, who's pregnant. So there's that going on. And the household scenes are hysterical in this movie because he's got a bunch of people in there always, all the time. Like I said, this is an entertaining movie. Sadly, it was Steve McQueen's last movie before he passed away. So rest in peace to Steve McQueen, one of Hollywood's greatest actors. This was his last film. So for some folks, not a good thing. I enjoyed it, so it made it number 8. Proudly, I didn't have to think about it, so this was no problems. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It's The Hunter, and it's number 8. Number 7, we've dealt with a horror movie. We've had an animated movie, and we had a movie who its star had passed away shortly thereafter the movie. Now we just have goofiness, just silly, fall down, hysterical comedy, directed by Jim Abrams and David and Jerry Zucker. That should already tell you what this is. Starring Robert Hayes, Julie Haggart, Leslie Nielsen, Peter Graves, you name it. A lot of people are in this movie. It is Airplane. Now, before this movie, there was tons of those airport movies, just a whole bunch of them. And this was the spoof of all those. The Zuckers, when it comes to spoofs, it's kind of hard because spoofs now have completely changed. They're not nearly as good as they used to be. Spoofs used to be hysterical. Now they are just dumb. They're just bad. They're not funny. They're brutal. They're torturous to watch now. This is the Zuckers. They knew how to do comedy. They just knew how to do it. Of course, they're the geniuses involved with, of course, the Naked Gun movies. And this just follows. I mean, the plot, is there really a plot to follow? Who cares? It's essentially, the piloting crew is not able to land the plane. They're incapacitated. And there's somebody on the plane played by Robert Hayes who has some experience flying a plane. It's just that he has a drinking problem. Not drinking. He tries to drink and he goes to drink it and he throws the drink in his own face. It's the stupidest thing ever, but that's his drinking problem. You got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in this movie. I mean, one of the scenes is a little kid recognizing him and saying he's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he's trying to pretend that he isn't. And you got Peter Graves in there as the captain, who, you ever seen a grown man naked? It's like, why are you asking some kid this? Leslie Nielsen playing the doctor. I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. It's like, what? The movie is so filled with gags. That's the genius of the Zucker movies. There are gags going on everywhere. There's the meant to gag that you're supposed to be focused on, and then there's about 10 gags going on around it. The Zuckers just knew how to do comedy. They knew how to write comedy. And there was an Airplane 2, this called Airplane 2, the sequel, except this time it's a shuttle flying through space. My boy William Shatner was in that one. Thank you very much. Airplane is absolutely fall down funny. Anytime I see that movie, I can still laugh my ass off. Lloyd Bridges is in this, Robert Stack. I mean, just... The movie is so damn funny. I mean, I find it hard to believe anybody could watch this movie and not laugh. It's just, and don't forget Otto, the Inflato pilot. Can't forget about Otto. He's in this. I mean, just the movie is so ridiculous. It's just so dumb. But it was successful. It was hilarious. It is one of the funniest movies I have ever seen. And it proudly earns its spot as number 7 on this list of movies from 1980, Airplane. Oh, number 6. You know, it's kind of sad because some of these movies are starting to make me feel old, especially when I have to deal with anyone who's passed away. The Steve McQueen one, I only knew him for a couple of, only this movie and Towering Inferno. That's all I knew him for. This movie stars an actor who passed away, and I knew who this guy was. This was somebody I'd paid attention to in other movies, on TV, do stand up as well. And he was playing a character that I had grown up with. Still, in a way, do. This movie is directed by Robert Altman, stars the late Robin Williams, Shelley Duvall, Ray Walston. It's Popeye the Sailor Man. Toot, toot. Yep, Popeye. Some of you may be laughing that Popeye's on this list. It is a ridiculous movie that just follows the adventures of the famous sailor as he meets his friends, Wimpy and Olive Oil and Sweet Pea in the little town called Sweet Haven. I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. I love this movie. Popeye it's a guilty pleasure. Because if you watch it, it's kind of utter shit, but I don't care. It's entertaining. It still makes me laugh. I still can enjoy it. Robin Williams, it was a tragedy losing that guy. He was such a genius, so funny. And it was a really sad thing seeing him, learning when he passed away. He was a hell of an actor. And he proved in movies like 1 Hour Photo that he's not just a comedic actor. That's a Robin Williams movie I own, is that one. Of course, he was in Dead Poet Society. Good morning, Vietnam. I mean, just an amazing actor. Don't think he gets sometimes the cred he deserves for his acting. Bicentennial Man, another great movie. Just a great actor. Definitely missed. Rest in peace to Robin Williams. Popeye, I can easily say was the first movie I saw of him. The first show I ever saw him on, as far as TV, was, of course, Mork and Mindy, like a lot of people. But Popeye always will hold a special place. It's a silly little movie. It's a goofy little movie about the character that I've seen on animated cartoons for a very long time. Popeye had an animated TV show that came on before I would head off to school, and I would always watch it. So they found the right guy to play Popeye, and he played it very well. It's a ridiculous character, and Robin played it so damn well. He played it perfectly. I don't know if they should ever try to do another live action Popeye. They would have a hell of a hill to climb trying to top Robin Williams. I don't think you might as well just not try to do it. Probably never will happen, but they found the right guy to play Popeye in Robin Williams. Shelley Duvall was perfect. She's been on this countdown a couple of times because she was in The Shining. She was perfect in playing Olive Oil. Paul Dooley, who played Wimpy, he was perfect for Wimpy. Ray Walston played Poop Deck Pappy. He was perfect in that role. Paul Smith, that's what I was trying to think of. He was perfect as Bluto. He played Bluto perfectly. I mean, he is every time I saw him after this, I just always said that's Bluto right there. So Popeye, thoroughly enjoyed it. Number 6. Now we're in our top 5. Top 5 movies from 1980. And comedy reigns supreme again. This is another comedy, and some folks may have never heard of this movie. If there's anything that this particular episode is going to do, it's sell this movie because it is just so damn funny. It's directed by Lang Elliott, written by John Myers and Tim Conway. Stars Tim Conway, Don Knotts, Trisha Noble, The Private Eyes. The Private Eyes is, again, it's basically a spoof. There's a death of 2 rather rich, powerful people and the Morleys, Lord and Lady Morley, pass away, and Scotland Yard sends Inspector Winship, who's played by Don Knotts, and Dr. Tart, who's played by Tim Conway. They're the goofy version of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. And they are just idiots. They are just complete morons. I mean, the whole movie, you have, Dr. Tart talking about wookalars, body of a human and the face of a pig. I mean, it's just ridiculousness, but they're sent to this mansion to uncover the mystery. And of course, once they get to the place, they meet the cast of characters. You got a butler, you got a Phyllis Morley, the daughter. You have nannies, you have a cook, you have a stable guy, just some random gypsy, just all kinds, and a maid. Very stereotypical maid, but this movie had some beautiful women. And the maid was stereotypical, and Phyllis Morley was just so damn fine. That song was just amazing, just gorgeous. Played by Trisha Noble. This movie is it's just so dumb. It's so dumb. The gags in this movie. Of course, they're trying to uncover who killed the Morleys, and more deaths start occurring. And it's the classic bumble your way to success. And I don't want to blow, as far as the killer or killers or anything like that. If you want to know, please watch the movie. But these are two comedic geniuses. The apple pie, I think it's the apple dumpling gang. A lot of people like that one. Don Knotts, I knew from not Andy Griffith because I thought the show was stupid. I remembered him from The Ghost of Mr. Chicken, which is just hysterical as well. I love The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. That movie is fall down funny. And Tim Conway, I, of course, knew from, working with Mama's Family, Vicki Lawrence, things like that. So this was interesting, and I truly have no way of knowing how I found this movie. I don't know. I just found it one day when I was a little kid, real little. I found it, and I just thought it was funny. I just thought it was absolutely ridiculous. And the funny thing is, it's this movie that made me like Sherlock Holmes. I didn't know about Sherlock Holmes yet, but I saw this, and then I heard about Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, and I'm like, that sounds familiar. And then I look at drawings of the characters, and I'm like, I think I've seen this before. And then I remembered Private Eyes. So I was like, so Private Eyes is a spoof off of Sherlock Holmes. Okay. And I was like, okay, so this is the serious stuff. So I started reading Sherlock Holmes. So in an odd way, Private Eyes is the reason I'm a Sherlock Holmes fan. I got to be the only one to say that. But I mean it. This movie is so damn funny. It's just, Tim Conway is a genius when it comes to writing, and he wrote a hell of a movie here. This movie is just so damn funny. The ending, I'm not going to blow the ending, but every time I see the ending, I just die of laughter. I'm just dying of laughter. I've already spent nearly 2 hours laughing at this movie, and then they get me at the end with this last laugh. I mean, I wish they'd have made a sequel. God, I wish they would have made a sequel to this, but of course it never happened. But hysterical. Number 5, Private Eyes. Please give this movie a try. Please give it a try. It's totally worth it. It is hysterical. Number 5, The Private Eyes. Number 4. You know what? Comedy is reigning supreme. I mean, Airplane, comedy. Popeye, comedy. Private Eyes, comedy. And number 4, another comedy. Directed by Colin Higgins. Starring Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, Dolly Parton, Dabney Coleman. It is 9 to 5. When I tell people that I like this movie, by the way, I own this movie on DVD. When I tell people I like this movie, there's some people who kind of do a double take, because I've heard some people say, isn't that kind of more of a chick movie? I'm like, don't think so. I don't know why. Is that because there's the main characters, the three main characters are women? Is that why you're saying that? Uh, I never looked at it like that. I just looked at it as just a funny movie, and to me, it is. It's just an hysterical movie, and it's something that we all can identify with. The movie follows these three employees who have to deal with this sexist, egotistical, lying, hypocritical bigot. Played by Dabney Coleman, who, when you think of your boss, now we all have bosses. I'm not saying my boss acts like this, because my boss does not act like this, but we've all had a boss that may be sexist, may be egotistical, may be lying, could be a hypocritical bigot. We've kind of all dealt with a boss that may be one or two of these. Rare to deal with one that's all of them. I've never had one who's all of them. I have had one who's about four of those. So, and it's not a current boss. This was some time ago, because I got bosses who listen to this show. You're all in the clear. But this movie just follows these three female characters, and along the way, they just join forces against this sexist, egotistical, lying, hypocritical. And you may wonder why I'm saying that. It's a direct line from the movie, and they say it several times. You're a sexist, egotistical, lying, hypocritical bigot. They say it a lot. Of course, starring, genius comedy of Lily Tomlin, the beautiful Jane Fonda, and the exotically beautiful Dolly Parton. And Dabney Coleman is he's a scene-stealing actor that people don't talk about. He is so funny in this. He is so funny in this movie. I mean, you're supposed to hate him, and they do make a good job of making you hate him, but you also want to see him because he's just so damn funny. He's such an interesting character in this movie. I mean, there was a time that I would go to right before I went to work, I would listen to this song, 9 to 5, which is sung by Dolly Parton. I actually like the song. It's on my Spotify playlist, as a matter of fact. This is just a great movie about the work environment. We've all dealt with just dealing with different personalities at the job, at the work office. You deal with your person who's spreading all the rumors. You deal with the person who's an ass kisser. You deal with the person that's trying to bang everybody in the office, who's trying to hit everybody. You got the liar. You got the, somebody who's just a racist, just a prick. All these different types of people, we all have them in our office. And you may be one of these, who knows? But this movie really, I think it still captures, in a way, what working in an office is like. It's a meat grinder where we're all forced in together. Now, obviously, with, the COVID world, we're working at, a lot of places work at home. I work at home. And by the way, I prefer it. And I would like to continue to do that. So, you're not in the office anymore, but eventually we're all going to end up going back to the office. Damn it. And this movie still holds very true on so many things. It's just fall down funny. It's just damn good. Very well written, very well acted by everyone who's in this movie. It's pure 80s when you look at the scenery and everything, but I don't care. The movie is just damn funny. It's a classic. It's why I bought it on DVD. I haven't bought it on Blu-ray. I wouldn't mind having it on Blu-ray if they made like a nice special edition. But I'm fine with just having my DVD of it. And it's a movie easily I can watch. No problems sitting through this movie. It's just that damn good. And that's why it is my number 4, 9 to 5. Number 3, we get into some big movies here. These are the big ones. Number 3, let's just get this one out the way. Directed by Mike Hodges, starring Sam J. Jones, Melody Anderson, Max von Sydow, I always say his name wrong, DePaul, Timothy Dalton, Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon is just one of those movies that defines a decade. Flash Gordon totally does. It is a ridiculous movie based off of an old character from the comic strips. He had Republic serials, old movies, black and white movies. Just the character's been around forever. And they made this movie and it became a underground cult classic of epic proportions. Nobody could have known that this movie was going to be that big. And of course, it only is bigger by the epic soundtrack by Queen doing that intro, Flash Gordon. I mean, the plot, it's about a football player, Flash Gordon, who with a couple of other folks wind up in space. And by a couple other, I mean Melanie Anderson, who plays Dale Arden, and Dr. Hans Zarkov, played by T'Pol. T'Pol's tracked this signal. He believes the signal is coming from space, and Earth is having all kinds of weather issues. And to discover, you see it very early in the movie, that Emperor Ming, played by Max von Sydow, is being a prick. And you hear Peter Weingarten. I can't say his name, but he plays Clytus. And they're being just prick. Ming is just messing around with Earth's weather. He's having fun before he destroys the planet Earth. And Hans knows the signal's coming from out there, and he's determined to go out there. And Flash Gordon and Dale, through some bad weather, wind up mistakenly going along for the ride. And along the way, they meet Prince Barden, who's played by Timothy Dalton, Princess Aurora, who is extremely sexual. That's all I'm going to say. And a character who stole the movie, played by Brian Blessed, Prince Voltan. Voltan stole the whole damn movie. He is hysterical. I love Prince Voltan. As I was watching that movie, I'm like, oh, please don't be a villain, because I like you too much. Please don't be a villain. This movie is just a classic. I mean, they've made documentaries about this movie. This movie was a focal point in Ted. Flash Gordon is a classic, an absolute classic. And I have this movie on DVD and Blu-ray. So that should say how I feel. When I get it at both, I love it. And I love Flash Gordon. This has been remade into TV shows, which did not get successful. I've heard rumors that they want to remake the movie. Would it be successful? It probably would make money, but would it achieve the fame that this Flash Gordon did? It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. This was lightning in a bottle, this movie. And it was made simply because Star Wars had gotten so popular, and studios all over the place were clamoring to make their own Star Wars. Star Trek, the motion picture, for example, came out early after the initial Star Wars movie. And this was another reactionary to that, to the fame of Star Wars. Moonraker for James Bond, reaction to Star Wars. So many movies got made because of Star Wars, people reacting. And this was, or studios reacting, and this was one of those reactions, was Flash Gordon, but this was one of the good ones. Flash Gordon is an amazing movie. Definitely recommend watching the Flash Gordon. Most of you, I feel, have probably watched Flash Gordon. It is just a classic, an absolute fucking classic. I can watch that movie all day and never get tired of it. Flash Gordon proudly is number 3. Runner up. Some of you might get a laugh at this, that this movie is going to be on this list. Some of you who know me may get a laugh out of this, but I don't care. I like this movie. I am a huge fan of this movie. It's part of a franchise, directed by Richard Lester and Richard Donner, who's uncredited because of some shenanigans that was going on back behind the scenes. Written by Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster, and Mario Puzo. Stars Gene Hackman, Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder, Ned Beatty, Jackie Cooper, Sarah Douglas, Jack O'Halloran. It is Mark McClure. Can't forget about Mark McClure. Oh, and Clifton James. Can't forget about Clifton James either. And Terrence Stamp. Sorry, can't forget Terrence Stamp either. E.G. Marshall. I just remembered another one in there. It is Superman 2. Superman 2. I mean, the making of these movies, there's a few documentaries that talk about the makings of these movies, and they could be theatrical movies just by themselves, because the everything that was going on behind the scenes with the producers and the director, the fighting, the infighting that was going on, the absolute huge production of filming 1 and 2 at the same time, essentially. I mean, just huge, just absolutely huge and epic. Just that story in itself. Seriously suggest looking it up. But Superman 2, essentially, just, the character is established in Metropolis and in the world. And it focuses a lot on his relationship with Lois. He's got feelings for Lois. We already knew that, that was the way it is. If you've read the comics, you already knew that. But he decides that he will make a sacrifice, that he'll sacrifice his powers so that he can have a relationship with Lois. And along the same time, 3 Kryptonian criminals escape from the Phantom Zone, and they come to Earth. And of course, when you're a Kryptonian and you come to Earth, the sun's different for Krypton than it is on Earth, and that's where Superman gets his powers. He's getting them from the sun. So these 3 Kryptonians, they all become super powerful, and they are pure evil. Nod, Ursula, and of course, their leader, General Zod. These 3 are just pure evil. And here's the thing. I like General Zod. I like the character. Terrence Stamp played him so well. So well. And Sarah Douglas, another beautiful woman, Sarah Douglas. And Non's just a dumb meathead goofball. Freaking, he was just an idiot, but he made me laugh. The whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm sitting here going, no, Superman's probably going to win this. They're not going to kill him, because at the time I thought they'll never kill Superman. Boy, was I wrong on that one. But I'm like, how is he going to beat him? And of course, you have in the background Lex Luthor, played brilliantly by Gene Hackman, a role that a lot of people would try to do and very few would be good at it. Kevin Spacey, I know that name is dirt to some people. He was good in Superman Returns. One of the very few things good about that movie was Kevin Spacey. Lois and Clark, I thought John Shea played an excellent Lex Luthor. And of course, Smallville, an excellent Lex Luthor. So the role has been played well. Also, animated wise, the role has been played very well. I can't think of the actor's name. I can see his face. He was Kurgan on Highlander. I just can't think of his damn name, but he voices Lex Luthor through a lot of Justice League cartoons and a lot of DC animated movies where Luthor showed up. He would voice Luthor. So, but it's Superman makes a sacrifice. He makes a sacrifice for love to give up his powers, to not be Superman. And then he's faced with the problem. I don't have my powers anymore. And here are these 3 Kryptonians wreaking havoc. Do I go back to the life that I gave up so that I could be with this woman? Or do I throw all that away? And he has that choice to make. And Christopher Reeve, of course, is only Superman for life. And again, another actor that passed away that is sad. I mean, a lot of people in these movies passed away. A lot of them. I didn't even go through all of them, but there was, Don Knotts passed away. I mean, there's a lot of people through these movies who have passed away over the years. I mean, this is 1980. We're this is over 30 years ago. So this is going back. So, but Christopher Reeve he made it almost impossible for anybody to be Superman. He's just who you think of. When you think of Superman, he's who you think of. And even I, as someone who does not like Superman, I love his portrayal. It's the best of everybody who has played Superman. He is hands down the best. Henry Cavill actually did a very good job. Some people may not like him. I did. I thought Man of Steel was good. And as far as a Superman in the suit, because in Smallville, you never saw him in the suit. You just saw his head and a color of red and blue fly by, but you never see him in the suit. as far as people in the suit, Henry Cavill was the best. I like watching Lois and Clark, but Dean Cain, at times a bit brutal. A little brutal at times. Tim Daly voicing Superman in a lot of those Justice League cartoon shows and everything, but Christopher Reeves made that role. He made you believe a man can fly, which was a tagline to Superman Forever. And Margot Kidder is Lois Lane, a woman, another woman. Some people may not think of her as beautiful back then. I did. I thought she was hot. Jackie Cooper was so perfect as Perry White. Ned Beatty as Otis was just funny as Luthor's little underling. Mark McClure as Jimmy Olsen, who unfortunately he would have to go over and be Jimmy in Supergirl, a movie I've mentioned before. What a piece of shit. Just terrible, horrible. But this movie is just an amazing movie. It is my favorite Superman movie. I actually like Superman 2 more than Superman 1. It's just great. It's just absolutely great. It is the best Superman has ever been on the big screen. I don't think any movie will ever beat that. Man of Steel was the closest one to try since the first two Superman movies. I just don't see anything beating those. And nobody's going to top Christopher Reeve. That's just the way it goes. Nobody will top Christopher Reeve. Number 2, the runner-up, the Man of Steel himself, Superman in Superman 2. Oh boy, we're at numero uno. But before I say what number 1 is, let's do just a slight little review. Number 10 was The Shining. Number 9 was Return of the King. Number 8 was The Hunter. Number 7 was Airplane. 6 was Popeye. 5 was The Private Eyes. 4 was 9 to 5. 3, Flash Gordon. And runner-up, Superman 2. Number 1. Come on, people. There's only one movie that should ever be number 1 in a countdown of movies from 1980. There is only one film that should be number 1. This film should be on every human being's list that mentions movies from 1980. Directed by Irwin Kershner, starring Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Billy D. Williams, Anthony Daniels, Peter Mayhew, Kenny Baker, David Prowse, Alec Guinness, Frank Oz, and of course the Julian Glover's in this, and of course the legendary voice of James Earl Jones. It is, of course, Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. I have said it numerous times. The Empire Strikes Back is hands down, and I did a countdown for this already on Star Wars Day last year. Star Wars, of all of the movies, the best Star Wars movie ever is easily, it's not even close, it is Empire Strikes Back. On Star Wars Day, I always watch Empire Strikes Back. That's what I choose to watch every single year. I watch Empire Strikes Back. Maybe I watch another one. Maybe I watch 3. But the one guarantee is Empire Strikes Back is getting watched. Rob, you right there with me. Rob, you knew that this was number 1. I guarantee you knew this had to be number 1. What can I say about this plot? You all know it. You've all grown up with it. You've all seen it many times. This takes place, of course, after Episode 4, Star Wars, A New Hope. And the rebels are now on this ice world Hoth, running from the Empire. Luke is now starting to get a little more curious. He's needing that training in becoming a Jedi, which leads him to find on the planet Dagobah, he finds a character who would just be amazing and a marvel, Yoda. And this is also the thing about this movie is this is the middle chapter. And George Lucas had this belief that in a trilogy, the middle chapter should be the darkest, where everybody is in the greatest peril. And Empire is dark. It is definitely, I mean, you could tell by the title that probably this isn't going to end too well for the Rebel Alliance. If you haven't watched it, you'll have to watch and see what occurs in this. But I will say one of my favorite characters, I remember watching, my favorite character is Han Solo. And I was deeply concerned about my boy, Han. And of course, this movie has one of the greatest shockers of movie history. I'm not gonna blow it. I'm not gonna blow it. Most of you already know this. So, but there may be a few who might actually have not seen this. And this is one of those movies I truly don't want to blow. I'm going to try my best. I'm trying not to blow it. But this movie is just so epic, a part of the Star Wars franchise. Unfortunately, after this would be Return of the Jedi, which was on a previous countdown. I do like it, but of the original trilogy, it is the worst of the original trilogy. Something had to be it. But I mean, just everything about Empire Strikes Back. And it's amazing. I mean, George didn't direct it. You got Erwin Kershner, who out of the blue comes in and directs it and hits a friggin' grand slam. He hits a grand slam. Not only does he hit a grand slam, he hits this one off the planet Earth. I mean, just an absolute great. And one of the few times in history, legitimately, a sequel is better than the original. And to me, they never got as good as they did with Empire Strikes Back. They just never did. I don't know why they couldn't do it, but they didn't. Now, I know for some of you, you may get mad if you remember my Star Wars list, because I watched Force Awakens. I fucking hate that movie. And I didn't watch any of the other two that came after it. I watched the Han Solo movie because I'm a Han Solo fan. I always said I would watch a Han Solo movie. But other than that, after Force Awakens, I ain't watched shit. And I don't plan on watching any of that shit that came after. So it's amazing. I mean, I could talk about Empire Strikes Back for hours. Because it's just that damn good. It's just that good. And I don't know why they could not make these movies equal to that. They did so much right with Empire Strikes Back, and they just never were able to get to that level again. And in some instances, just absolutely failed completely, bombed, stunk it up. Talking about you, Phantom Menace and Force Awakens. And from what I've heard of Last Jedi, I've heard that was a stinker. But this movie just, with the shockers, the dark tone, the tremendous acting, the character of Yoda, the documentaries talking about these movies is just tremendous. How they got to do Yoda back then. Of course, now you can cheat and they use CGI and all that shit. But back then it was a puppet. It was a puppet, one of the greatest puppets ever made. And of course, you get the puppet master in, and I ain't talking about the horror movie, The Puppet Master, either. Bring in Frank Oz and Jim Henson, but Jim couldn't do it. So they brought Jim's second, his right-hand man, who is Frank Oz. And Frank made you believe in that puppet. He made you believe in that puppet. And again, I could talk about this movie forever. The Empire Strikes Back is just pure genius. It is one of the greatest movies ever made. It is a movie that has been mentioned on here numerous times. It's been mentioned on countdowns. Of course, the Star Wars countdown, greatest movies of all time. It's a part of that. It's part of the Star Wars franchise. So movie franchises, it was a part of that. So Star Wars is one of those things that keeps getting mentioned. It keeps showing its face. But the best part of Star Wars is easily the number one movie from 1980. It is, of course, The Empire Strikes Back. There we go. This countdown is done. We finished it, and we finished the decade. 1980 is done. I have gotten through it somehow, some way. This decade is over, but it was fun. I will do this again with the 90s, but it's going to be a little bit down the road. I'm not going to jump right into a 90s. I'm going to wait a little bit before I get into the 90s. Maybe try to talk somebody into wanting to guest spot on one or two of those. Might be a little interesting to get somebody else's opinion as far as the 90s. So I'll have to see what I can do for that. If you're listening, maybe you might want to partake in that. I don't know. I'll see what I can do as far as that goes. But this was fun doing the 80s movies. It was a great idea, and do want to thank the listener who suggested it. And Eric, you played a hand in it as well with the action movies of the with the action movies of the 90s and things. So you played a hand in this as well. This was fun, and it was fun going back in these movies. I hope some folks listening to these countdowns, maybe you may give a movie a try that you might not have done before. Maybe you will now give a movie a try. I hope you do. But tell me what you think. What do you think? What's your countdown? Do you have any ideas, show ideas, any countdown ideas you would like for me to do? There are plenty of ways you can communicate with me and ways you can listen to this show. You can send me an email at thecountdown2020@gmail.com. Like I said, if you can communicate through me, you can give me your ideas. Tell me what you think of the show, what you think I can do better. Anything, any way you want to communicate with me, that's one way to do it. You can also go over to the Facebook page, just search at the Countdown 2020 Podcast 1. Everything I just said you can do on there as well. Plus, you can also click a link on there to listen to the show. And also, you can search for a poll over there. There's a poll that I did over there, which is I want you to tell me what your favorite comic book inspired movie is. That's leading to a countdown I will do later. So please, if you're listening, please look on the Facebook page for this poll. Please vote on there. All you have to do is click on the link, and then that takes you to a spot where you input your favorite comic book inspired movie, which may not be something with superheroes, because after all, History of Violence, that's comic book inspired. Men in Black, comic book inspired. So just whatever your favorite comic book inspired movie is, please vote on there. I'm also on Twitter. Just search at the Countdown PO1. Of course, everything I said you can do on there. Communicate with me, give me ideas. You can also click on the link there to listen to the show. You can go on to Instagram, just search the Countdown 20. Again, everything I said you can do on there. You can listen to the show on Spotify, just search the Countdown 2020. You can listen to the show on Amazon Audible, just search the Countdown Podcast. I'm also on iHEART Radio, just search the Countdown Podcast. I'm on PodBean, just search the Countdown Podcast, and you can go to this website for the episode archive where you can listen to all the episodes. It's the countdown2020.podbean.com. There you can pull up all the episodes that I've done. And of course, I'm on YouTube. Just search the Countdown Podcast with MJ Book. As I said in the last episode, I'm only going to start doing either special episodes as far as a camera on YouTube, or at least when I have a guest on, those are the ones that are going to get posted on YouTube. As far as the videos, the audios will continue to be posted. So for those of you listening right now, you may have noticed I didn't say for those listening on YouTube. That's because this episode is not on YouTube. As far as video, the audio will be posted there on YouTube as always. And all episodes available through Podbean. Please like, listen, follow, watch, subscribe to all those. Like, listen, follow, subscribe. The Facebooks, the Twitters, the Instagram, Spotify, all of it. Just Podbean. I want to know what you think. I want to get your support. I've got a lot of people recently watching. Just the other day, and listening. Just the other day, I had noticed there was a couple of people in the UK who were listening. So if you're one of those people in the UK that was listening, I saw you, and thank you for listening. I appreciate every single one of you. I want to take the time to thank Incomtech.com for the royalty-free music, Kevin MacLeod, Ice Flow that you hear at the beginning and end of the episodes. And again, I'm going to throw this quick shout out to Third Generation Wrestling. If you're a professional wrestling fan, these are the guys you need to listen to. We literally just got done recording, literally just minutes before I started recording this, talking about NXT TakeOver 36. And just a couple of days ago, we talked about SummerSlam. This was a busy wrestling weekend. And of course, the three of us are going to be going to AEW All Out. That's going to be fun. Please listen to Third Generation Wrestling, hosted by the real Big E, Eric, and the Ambassador Rob. I'm a contributor onto the show, as well as the good brother Blake and the doctor of wordonomics himself, the doc. Please listen to that show. And that is all I've got for you. And I will catch you all again on the next episode of The Countdown. Have yourself a great day or evening, whatever time it is. Bye-bye.